Hi, this is Carlos Cousins, and the following is an SAT short passage question that is asking you to identify lines in a text. So for these types of questions, what you want to do all the time is identify the thesis of the passage as you would before any other short passage question. And again, just as a reminder, for every short passage, that could be in the beginning, in the middle, at the end. You never know where the thesis is going to be, but whatever follows it, if it's not the last sentence, is going to be evidence to back up that thesis sentence. And if it is the last sentence, then every single sentence before it will build logically toward the thesis. There always is a thesis statement to figure out for this sort of problem. And when they're asking you to look for lines in a passage, what you want to do is you want to read those lines and then the sentences before and after the part of the passage where these appear. You don't want to just guess what things mean outside of context. So let's go ahead and do that together. So here we're talking about this passage. As our culture trod inevitably toward the computer age in the 90s, a computerized lifestyle began to surface more and more in the popular media. If you read this carefully, you'll figure out that this actually is the thesis and that everything that follows this sentence is actually evidence to back it up. So for example, characters in film and television began to interact via email and chat. This is an example of the computerized lifestyle being shown in the media. The popular romantic comedy You've Got Mail, again, a media example of how a computerized lifestyle showed up in the 90s, because we have, characters that meet online, develop relationships virtually, etc., etc. So this is our thesis. And now we're looking at lines 11 through 12. So this is here near the end. Ironically, only 10 years later, the technology, graphics, and email formats used in the film already seem archaic to modern eyes. And this comes after the introduction of the popular romantic comedy You've Got Mail, which we just saw was describing, it was an example backing up the fact that in the 90s there was this computerized lifestyle, right? That said that their characters met online, developed relationships virtually, etc. And what's said now is that it looks as though these formats now are archaic, so they look old to us. And it's funny because in the 90s when this was shown, and this is why it's ironic, in the 90s when these were shown, these scenes were shown, it seemed like, wow, this is so technologically advanced. And now we look back, and in 2015, it looks like, wow, these shows are showing, really advanced technology that actually looks really old, really, really archaic. So we want to find a sentence here that says that this is an example of a characteristic of You've Got Mail that seems to be archaic, that seems old-fashioned. So kinds of images that started to appear in film and television throughout the 90s. That would be okay if we were talking about an example backing up the thesis directly, like You've Got Mail or just, characters in film here. But this, ironically, is already starting a conclusion and refers only to that previous example. So that doesn't make sense. Ability of the director of You've Got Mail to predict the future of computer technology. So it's not the future necessarily, because right now it already looks old. It's a little bit too stuck in the past, not the future. So that's not correct. Characteristics of email and computers that modern audiences will consider passé. So this is the right answer. Passé means old-fashioned. So definitely, these are characteristics of email computers that seem old-fashioned. So that has to be the right answer. Whoa, that's a huge circle there. Modernized features that made You've Got Mail as popular as it was. Potentially, but not in lines 11 and 12. In lines 9 and 10, definitely. But here we're only wondering about 11 and 12. Here we're just saying that it's ironic that now it looks old-fashioned. Aspects of computer technology that are fixed and will not change over the years. Well, if they look old-fashioned, they had to have changed. So answer choice C is the correct answer. I hope that helped. Happy prepping.